It's study session time. In today's 1-hour study session, as per usual, we're going to cover all areas of English, including reading, speaking, vocabulary, grammar, writing, and listening practice. While some of these topics will be studied independently, other ones will be integrated together to create a more comprehensive learning experience. Not only will this integrated study method save you a ton of time, but it's also a more intuitive way to learn a language because it's similar to how you learned your native language. And remember, since you provide your own study materials, you can come back to these videos again and again anytime you feel like you need a bit of help structuring your study routine, or if you just want a little bit of company and want someone to study with you. So don't forget to like and subscribe so that you can join the Cam fam and share this with a friend who's also learning English so that they can join our excellent and supportive English learning community. So today's study session will be broken down like this. We'll first start out with a 15-minute reading session. I know that this may feel a little bit long for some people, but I really want you to try and get into the habit of diving deeper into your reading and feeling a lot more immersed in your reading material. If you're only reading for 5 or 10 minutes, that's better than nothing, but you might not be able to dive as deep into your book and learn how to truly enjoy it. Remember, reading can and should be an enjoyable part of your day. Second will be our vocabulary practice. So using either your 5 words that you're studying this week or 5 words from your reading section today, we will be focusing on synonyms. I'll give a more detailed description of how we'll work on those synonyms later in the study session. Third, we're going to do something a little bit different today. We are going to combine listening and grammar. So for this integrated listening and grammar section, I am going to say a sentence, and your task will be to try and identify which tense the sentence is in, or when it is supposed to take place. And like usual, at the end of this video, we're going to wrap it all up with an extra fun writing assignment that will incorporate everything that we worked on today. And of course, because this is a fully comprehensive English studying video, we'll be sprinkling in all different opportunities for speaking practice throughout the study session. Let's discuss the materials that you'll need for today's English practice. First, you need a reading material that brings you joy, preferably some kind of book, but I guess you could also pick out a news article if that's something that you like to read. If you need a little bit more information or guidance on finding a reading material that brings you joy, definitely check out Study Session Episode 3, where we focused all on finding your joy in reading. The second thing that you'll need for today's practice will be 5 vocabulary words. We'll be working on day 5 in the 5x5 vocabulary study guide, and day 5 focuses all on synonyms. So ideally, I would like you to work on your 5 vocabulary words that you started practicing at the beginning of this week. But if you don't have any words picked out yet, you can definitely choose some words during your reading section today. That's what I'm going to be doing. You definitely need some careful listening ears. our listening and grammar practice may be a little bit challenging. So make sure you're in a somewhat quiet place or at least have some really good loud headphones. And finally, you're going to need something to write in. I'll be using the My 365-Day Writing Journey, but you could simply follow along with the prompt and write in a notebook, type out your answer on your phone, or heck, write it on the palm of your hand. It doesn't matter. Just you need to write it down somewhere. Some optional materials that will really help to optimize today's study session will be the reading recommendations guide that has over 40 book recommendations. So you're guaranteed to find a book that you will enjoy. Also, most of those books have a linked study guide that can definitely help you out with reading comprehension and understanding some challenging parts of those books. And the guide is free, so why wouldn't you check it out? I also highly recommend using the 5x5 vocabulary study guide. The slower but time-efficient vocabulary study method in this book is based on the psychology of learning and information retention. I can guarantee that it's more effective for long-term language acquisition than whatever kind of intensive vocabulary cramming method you've been forced to do in the past. I also, of course, recommend the My 365-Day Writing Journey. In this book, there are daily writing prompts for every day of the year so that you can set aside 10 or 15 minutes each day to practice your writing, which will in turn also help with your speaking. Because if you can write well, you can definitely speak well. The My 365-Day Writing Journey and the 5x5 Vocabulary Study Guide are available on Amazon, but if you prefer an ebook version, or if it can't be delivered to your location via Amazon, you can also download them on my website, along with any other resources that I recommend. And finally, to track your progress along your English learning journey, I recommend the Weekly Study Planner, which is also free. In the Weekly Study Planner, you'll be able to check off that daily practice, and it includes tons of tips for success and lots of additional resources. I also recently posted a video about how to optimize your English practice with the Weekly Study Planner. So after this study session, you can go check that out. And finally, because this is a 1 hour long study session, maybe get yourself a nice big drink or a yummy snack. I totally understand that studying isn't always enjoyable. So let's try to inject a bit of happiness, joy, and something yummy into your English study practice. So for today's reading section, I'm going to be reading the final book in the Akatar series. I'm so close to finishing it. But like I mentioned in study session episode 3, this series is written for adults, so there's a lot of violence and some inappropriate language in it. So I won't be sharing the book on screen because I want to keep these videos appropriate for all audiences. However, I will be picking out my 5 vocabulary words from my reading today, so I'm going to share what I'm writing down in my 5x5 vocabulary study guide. A lot of people look down upon romantic fantasy or romantasy books because they feel like they aren't real literature. But not only are these books super fun to read, they also contain a ton of awesome vocabulary. So today I want to really show you how diverse the vocabulary is in these quite enjoyable books. Like I mentioned before, we will spend 15 minutes reading today. But if you get really immersed in your book, or if it's a really good part, definitely feel free to pause this video and continue your reading. You know the drill. Grab that reading material that brings you joy, set your phone aside, and let's get started with 15 minutes of reading. Okay, that's it for our reading section today. How was your book? Even though I only read 15 minutes of my book, A Court of Silver Flames, so much happened. There was a scene where they were in an enchanted library, and there was like a mysterious being following them around, and it was a little bit scary. And then there was another scene where the main character was training to become a warrior, and it was really fun. I really enjoy this series, and even though I'm reading it for a second time, I had honestly forgotten all of these different details. So sometimes it can actually be really fun to read books a second or third time because you might be able to catch more details than the first time. Just like how a lot of people love watching the series Friends over and over again, I like rereading book series over and over again. While I was reading, I also came across this really excellent quote. You have 25 years of bad habits to break. I say something like this quite frequently with my older adult students that are having some struggles with their pronunciation practice because maybe they learned incorrect pronunciation when they were a student. This can sometimes happen when learning pronunciation from a non-native English speaker. I'm not saying that non-native English speaking teachers are bad, but sometimes the way that they teach pronunciation might not be the most accurate. I know that when I was teaching English in South Korea, I often had to correct the pronunciation of my Korean coworkers because they were actually teaching some things very incorrectly to some of the students. So if you grew up and were always learning incorrect pronunciation for 20 years and now you're trying to correct it, it is going to be more of a struggle. But that's okay. With enough practice, you can definitely reach your goals of English fluency. So keep up that hard work. So using past tense, tell me what happened in the section of book that you read. So what has been your favorite part of your book so far? In the book I'm reading, I've really enjoyed watching the growth of the main character and how she started out being really miserable and angry and having addiction problems. And she's really transforming into a more caring but also sassy character. Did you write down any new vocabulary from your book today? You can see here that in just 15 minutes of reading, I was able to find 19 really awesome vocabulary words. And the cool thing about these words is even though they are more advanced and commonly used in literature, they're also still appropriate to use in daily conversation. And that's not always the case with advanced vocabulary. When speaking with native English speakers, if you always try to use advanced literary vocabulary, it actually comes off as being quite robotic and a little bit strange. So, one of the challenges with your vocabulary practice is figuring out what words are great for writing or great to study for English exams and which ones are more normally used in daily conversation. So I have way too many words to choose from for my vocabulary practice today. If you'd like, you can use some of them as well. So I'm going to pick out my top 5 that I would really like to study today. I think I'll go for chasm, chiding. I don't hear chiding very often, so I think this could be a useful word for me to study. Adept as a noun. I know what adept is as an adjective, but I would like to dive a little bit deeper into its other usages. What else? Maybe shuddered. That could be fun. And gnawing. If you notice with that word, there's a silent G. It is gnawing, not gnawing. Now let's get into our vocabulary practice. What are your 5 words that you're going to study today? Excellent. So using those 5 words, for each of them, we are going to find 3 synonyms. And with those synonyms, your goal is to figure out the nuanced differences. Remember, nuance means small, subtle details. So while synonyms usually mean essentially the same thing, sometimes those words can have small differences that will make them more appropriate for different situations. For this section, you're definitely going to need some help from Mr. Google, and ChatGPT can also be an excellent resource for this. You can type in the prompt, what is the difference between this word and this word? So because this vocabulary section will include a bit of writing and research, we're going to have 15 minutes to work on it. But as per usual, if you need more time, you can definitely pause the video to finish up this section. However, if you finish early, use that additional time to review your synonyms from today, and you can even go back and review the definitions or the other days within your 5x5 vocabulary study guide, or whatever you're using to study vocabulary. Okie dokes, 15 minutes of vocabulary synonym practice. Let's go. Okay.
Oh, my hair got stuck.
Maybe 15 minutes wasn't enough time for that. I know I only had 30 seconds left and I had to skip Shuttered. I'll come back to that, but I realized Shuttered is not used very frequently. So probably when I come back and finish that set of synonyms, I'll mostly look at the difference between these three words. So, how are sheltered, covered, and obscured different from each other? This might happen during your synonym practice. You might come across words that don't have very clear synonyms, and that's okay. There are some words that don't have very good synonyms. So just do your best. And if it takes more than a few Google searches to try and find a synonym, don't worry about it. That means it either doesn't have any similar words, or maybe it's not a commonly used word, so it might not even be worth your time to study it that much. So, what about you? Did you have any difficulty finding synonyms? And what words were difficult to search for? For some extra speaking practice, go ahead and read out loud your different synonyms and those nuanced differences that you wrote down. Awesome. Now let's move on to our listening and grammar section. For this section, you're going to need to listen very, very carefully to what I'm saying because I will be removing the subtitles. Please don't cheat. Turn off the captions for this section because I want you to really, really practice those listening skills. So go ahead, turn off those captions. I'll wait. So I am going to say a sentence, and your task is to figure out which tense that sentence was in. Now, while I'm not too concerned about my students knowing the specific names for the tenses, such as past participle and present perfect, it is important to understand how the verbs change and how they're used to describe when something is happening. So, yes, I will put down the specific name of the tenses, but I will also provide a description for what those tenses mean. And if you need to, you can definitely listen to these sentences multiple times and pause if you need a little extra time to answer each question. Are your listening ears ready? Excellent. Let's get started. Question 1. Listen carefully and determine when this happened. I always eat the same thing for lunch. Is it A, simple present, B, present continuous, C, the first conditional, or D, present perfect? The answer is A, simple present, because this is a habit. Question 2. If I won the lottery, I would travel around the world. Is the answer A, simple past, B, past perfect, C, second conditional, or D, present perfect? The answer is C. This is a second conditional. Even though it has past tense verbs, it means an unlikely or impossible outcome in the present or future. Question 3. I went to school yesterday. Is it A, simple past, B, past perfect, C, second conditional, or D, present perfect? The answer is A, simple past, because this is a completed action that happened in the past. Question 4. I have lived in South Korea. Is this A, simple past, B, past perfect, C, second conditional, or D, present perfect? The answer is D, present perfect, because this is something that happened in the past at an unspecified time. Present perfect can be a bit tricky. Question 5. If I had remembered to call my friend last night, she wouldn't have sent me an angry text message. Is this A, simple past, B, past perfect, C, present perfect, or D, third conditional? The answer is D, third conditional. We use the third conditional to describe a past regret or different outcome that would have happened if a specific condition had been met, and it's always used to describe events in the past. Question 6. He will have been gaming for a few hours by the time you arrive. Is this A, simple future, B, future continuous, C, first conditional, or D, future perfect continuous? The answer is D, future perfect continuous, because this is an action that will have happened for a certain amount of time and will not be completed yet at another point in the future. Question 7. If he takes vitamins every day, he doesn't get sick. Is this A, simple present, B, present continuous, C, first conditional, or D, zero conditional? The answer is D, zero conditional. This is an outcome that happens if a specific repeated condition is met, and it's used in present tense, as in a general truth. Question 8. We're close to finishing. I am watching Netflix right now. Is this A, simple present, B, present continuous, C, first conditional, or D, present perfect? The answer is B, present continuous. That means it's something that's happening at the time of speaking. Question 9. She will get a good grade if she studies for the test. Is this A, simple present, B, present continuous, C, first conditional, or D, present perfect? The answer is C, first conditional. This is a likely or possible outcome in the present or future. It's not guaranteed like a zero conditional because you should get a good grade if you study, but let's be honest, it doesn't always happen. And finally, question 10. I had eaten all of the pizza when he arrived at my house. Oops. Is it A, simple past, B, past perfect, C, second conditional, or D, present perfect? The answer is B, past perfect. This means that an action was completed before another one started, And both of these actions were in the past. Sorry, bro. Didn't mean to finish all your pizza. So, how did you do? Was there a certain tense that you found to be more challenging? What about the questions that were easier to answer? Which tenses do you feel more confident using? Make sure you write down how many answers you got correct so that the next time you watch this video, you can keep track of how much you have improved. Let's close out today's study session with an extra fun writing assignment. Even though today is technically February 15th, I'm doing a lot of pre-filming this week because my big dog, that's usually quite loud, is currently in the hospital recovering from a really serious hip replacement surgery. So I'm taking advantage of this quiet time. We're actually going to go back and work on the January 17th prompt from the My 365 Day Writing Journey. But we're going to make a few little changes. The prompt is: describe a place you'd like to visit in your city or town. Why do you want to go there? But today I want to put a little twist on this prompt. So instead of writing about a place in your city or town, we're going to mix it up a little. Instead, I want you to write about a fictional place that you would like to visit. You can choose a location from any book, comic, show, movie that you would like. Maybe you would love to visit the dark and kind of scary Gotham City from Batman, or go enjoy second breakfast in Hobbiton from Lord of the Rings, or wave your wand at Hogwarts from Harry Potter. It doesn't matter. Choose whatever you would like. I'm going to write about the city of Valaris, which is actually on my t-shirt today. And that's the city where the book takes place that I was reading earlier. Now, even if this is not the first time that you've watched this video, I still want you to answer the same prompt. Just choose a different fictional location. An important grammar tip to keep in mind when describing something is that you need to use present tense. I also want you to make sure to include as many details as possible. Try to make the reader feel as though they are in the city, so you can describe the sights, the sounds, the smells, the different activities happening. Whatever it is, just try to paint a picture with your words. And for an extra fun challenge, I want you to try and incorporate some of the vocabulary and synonyms that we studied earlier in our vocabulary section. For today's writing section, I am going to give you 15 minutes to complete it because I really want you to take that extra time to add as many descriptive details as possible. Don't just answer, I want to go there because it seems fun. That's lame. Try to give as many reasons as possible. I want to go there to experience the magical culture. I want to go there to eat the delicious second breakfast that is traditional in Hobbit households. Whatever your reason is for wanting to visit this fictional place, try to be descriptive. Don't be lame. I know you can do better. Okay, final writing section. 15 minutes. Let's go. Okay, and that wraps up today's English study session. What did you think of this writing prompt? Tell me about the fictional location that you would like to visit. I'd love to hear some more details about it. Could you read your journal entry out loud? Make sure to focus on clear pronunciation and enunciation. Awesome! That sounds like a wonderful place to visit. So, I seem to come across this same problem every time I do this vocabulary writing practice, where the writing prompt is generally very positive, but the vocabulary that I pick out has a lot of negative connotations. So, as usual, I did struggle a little bit to come up with ways to integrate my chosen vocabulary words into today's writing prompt. But the way that I was able to get these negative words to fit into this very positive writing prompt was to include this sentence where we're kind of contrasting something. So if you're trying to add a bit of negativity into your positive writing, you can use this even though kind of phrase to show that, yes, there are some bad things, but most of it is quite positive. So the words that I included were adept, chide, chastising, gnawing, and abyss. Now, I did tweak the words a little bit. Instead of using that noun version of adept, I did switch it to the adjective form, and instead of using chiding, I just used the base form of that verb, chide. What about you? What vocabulary words did you include in your writing? Did you find it difficult to integrate them into your writing? For a bit of extra writing practice, go ahead and share which fictional location you chose, and also let us know which movie, book, or show that it came from. Well, that wraps up today's study session. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to helping you study again and again as you continue to come back to these study session videos for some optimized study guidance so that you can practice your English efficiently and effectively. For more study sessions just like this, make sure to check out the study session playlist. And I really think that you'll enjoy this video right over here. Happy studying, and I'll see you later.